Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Dante Fortson here with a special follow up to addressing the evidence part two, the Shemites. Today I'm going to talk about the Elamites and Sir Harry Johnston. Now, this is an addendum, and I subtitled it Response to UA's Request for Scientific Evidence. For some reason, there seems to be a different standard held to black people when we have evidence for something, and UA is no different in that regard. It's based around white supremacy. The same people, let me back up. Europeans can make the same claim that a black person can make, and they will require more evidence from the black person than the European. And one example is this: is who are the real Israelites? Now, I presented tons and tons and tons of evidence, as everybody can attest to, and yet we're still asked for even more evidence. But at the same time, those Europeans over there aren't asked for any evidence. They just showed up and said, hey, we're Israelites. And they're like, okay, cool. We'll give you the land. We'll give you money. We'll give you all this stuff. They had no evidence required. And then when other European Jews, other Ashkenazi Jews started blowing the whistle and saying, hey, we're not the people of the book. Not only do these people defend the other people who just made the claim, and I'm talking about UA, they'll defend the Jews, and then they will try to discredit anybody that tries to present evidence that those people aren't who they say they are, even though their own people are saying it. And I've showed that over and over and over again throughout the series. So this is going to be an addendum to addressing the evidence part two. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Elamites and Sir Harry Johnston. So if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. Please click the thumbs up button. If you're on my website, click the like button, click the share button, please. And make sure you hit the notification bell. If you want to be notified whenever I put out a new video, click the notification bell. So that way they'll tell you, YouTube will tell you right away. And this study, of course, is brought to you by Undeniable, full color evidence of black Israelites in the Bible. If you get tired of debating scripture, let the evidence speak for itself. But remember, they require of us way more than they require of Europeans for evidence. And that's just the facts. Why? Because they operate, UA, urban apologists, operate on a system built on white supremacy. They are not fair and balanced like the Bible says. If they were acting fair and balanced, they would require the same exact amount of information from us as they do from the others, but they don't. So if you want to battle UA's claims, if you want to be ready for people in the urban apologist community before they even come into the black community and have a response ready, get that book, Undeniable. And secondly, the Black Hebrew Awakening. If you want the history, the background, the evidence that you can go research for yourself and be armed to refute all the claims of UA and these other Eurocentric Christian doctrines that come into our neighborhoods and try to tell us that we need white Jesus. And if we believe Jesus is black, then we're going to hell and we're wrong because we're not allowed to believe Jesus is black. That's what it comes down to. You're not allowed to believe Jesus is black. You have to believe he's anything but black. Otherwise, you're making it about race. If you believe he's white, you're not making it about race. But if you believe he's black, you're making it about race. That's the double standard we contend with. And the fact is, it's blatantly false. It's a lie. And they're getting away with this lie because it basically enables white supremacy. And so white people aren't going to complain when you tell black people that they have to worship a fake white Jesus. So that's just what it comes down to. If you want to be armed with the knowledge, if you want to be armed with the ammunition, the correct ammunition, get Undeniable. If you want to get armed with the knowledge, get the Black Hebrew Awakening. All right, so let's talk about Cherry Love. So yesterday, there was a super long, as you can see, 7-hour and 56-minute broadcast. Right there, around 31 minutes and 32 seconds, my name gets mentioned. Now, I said before, I warned the urban apologetics community, if you say my name 3 times, I will show up just like Candyman. Gave them fair warning. So yesterday on Cherry Love's channel, you see my name mentioned right here by Built for Speed 101. I just want to show you this. Now, if you go over to my YouTube page right now, I posted a blog post, click the community tab, and you will see that Built for Speed 101, after he says, I'm watching her page like a stalker, he comes in and leaves a comment on that page. In fact, I don't know who this is, he or she. I assume, based on some of the responses that I've and comments that I've received on my YouTube from this person, I feel like it might be faithful to God. I'm not sure, but I feel like it might be faithful to God, possibly. But again, I'm not familiar with these people. So anyway, this person built for speed comments on my YouTube page almost every single day. So that's first mention right here. They said I'm lurking shadows watching like a stalker. Now, let me point out that I went back today and I grabbed all this. I actually didn't see this live when it happened. I saw parts of it live. I didn't see this first mention live. I came in later on and I'm blocked from posting anything on Sister Cherry's channel. So they'll talk and talk and talk, but they've blocked us from responding because we've started to point out the lies. And as you can see, I gave it a thumbs down, but it has more thumbs down than it has thumbs up because people know she's lying. People are starting to see that these people are lying because they refuse to respond to the evidence. They can't explain why they're more harsh on black people and allow the KKK and these white Christians to go in and blow up synagogues, and they sit silent. They can't explain why the Europeans are allowed to have a race-based hate doctrine and it doesn't represent all Christianity. But meanwhile, if two people who over and over and over and over again, the authorities and others have said they acted alone and they got their ideology from somewhere else, she says just because they say that they're Israelites, suddenly they represent all Israelites. And yet when these Christians, these white Christian males blow up synagogues and shoot up black churches, she doesn't jump on and say, hey, these white people represent all Christianity. They immediately try to separate themselves from it. And I'm going to keep pointing out that hypocrisy. The Bible says an unbalanced measure is an abomination to God. You are supposed to be fair and balanced, like Fox News claims to be that slogan. You're supposed to be fair and balanced if you call yourself a Christian. So if you're going to say that these two Jersey City shooters represent all Israelites, then you have to say that any white Christian male that shoots up anything represents all Christians. You have to say that any Catholic priest who calls himself a Christian and he molests a child, then that represents all Christians as pedophiles. You have to be fair and balanced. Otherwise, you have to be honest and say, look, these two people acted on their own, as all the sources say. But I'm not going to get too much into that. So first name mention. First time my name gets mentioned here. So I do want to point out that there's an interesting conversation that goes on in here, right? Now, this person right here, Casper the Meanie Ghost, I just want to point out, Casper the Meanie Ghost, there's a reason these people hide behind these names. Cherry Love, Casper the Meanie Ghost, Vocab Malone, Built for Speed. It's because they think they can say crazy stuff and get away with it and nobody's going to find out who they are. And that's the only reason they do this. So Built for Speed tells this lie. So I'll let Yacoba talk for itself. So I don't know if Yacoba saw this or read this yet, but right here I screenshotted this. Casper the Meanie Ghost says, Yacoba holds to One West doctrines too. This is a lie. He believes European Jews are the E-words, which is a fairy tale made up by the racist Christian identity movement. Now, Christian identity is a white movement. But he says that One West holds to this doctrine. This is not a made-up fairy tale. This is not a made-up fairy tale. The reason some people, I'm not speaking for Yacoba, the reason some people believe that they are Edomites is because some people have actually traced the history. And some people have done the research. See, what happens is the urban apologists, they don't do the actual research. And I'm going to prove to you today that they don't do the research. What they do is they spout lies. And then anything that doesn't line up with that lie, they say, hey, that's false. That's not true. What peer review do you have? What scientific evidence is there? See, they won't do the research because they are dishonest. And when the research is presented to them, what they do is they move the goalpost or they raise the bar to something else because they know they can't refute it. So they constantly move the bar. But tonight I'm going to make sure that they can't move the bar and that all of the lies get exposed. So this is what they had to say about Yacoba. I'll let Yacoba speak for himself. But right here's another lie. This is a lie I want everybody to understand. If you're watching this for the first time, you've never heard of an urban apologetics movement, understand that these people have built everything that they're talking about as far as concerning the Israelites, they have built this on a lie. Built for Speed 101, who appears to be a moderator along with Casper the Meanie Ghost, or I'm not sure what these little tools thing. I think they're moderators. Says by God, the Holy Spirit, he revealed to the people of God the heretical beliefs of black Hebrew Israelism and moderates of the compromised gospel entrenched with racial identity false doctrine. What does that mean? It means that if you say Israel's black, it's a false doctrine as far as they're concerned. If you say Christ is black, it's a false doctrine as far as they're concerned. However, if you say Israel is white, that's not racial identity. If you say Christ is white, that's not racial identity. If you say Christ is olive or Middle Eastern or brown or tan or whatever color you want to call them, it's okay for you to say that. But again, these people are not fair and balanced. They are not behaving in a Christian capacity. They are having one set of standards for everybody else and a different set of standards. If I'm a Christian, for example, I was going to a non-denominational Christian church when I started to believe that Israelites were black based on my own personal research. I didn't change any of my other core beliefs, such as salvation. I didn't change any of those things. What I did was I started to relook at the history as it was presented to us. And so I started to change my beliefs about different things that occurred throughout history in different parts of the world. So for them to sit up and lie and say that there's a group of people called the moderates and they are under black Hebrew Israelism, just understand this. If you're a Muslim right now listening to this for whatever reason, because you might be interested in history, if you are a black Muslim and you are descended from the transatlantic slave trade, there is a very, very high chance that you are an Israelite by birth, nationality. And if you recognize that, like some Muslims do, you guys can do the research for yourself. They don't want to tell you this. Some Muslims do recognize that, yeah, we might be Israelites, and yet they maintain their Islam religion, the religion of Islam. But they don't want you to know that because they want you to believe that there's a group called moderates and then there's another group called the camps. This is a lie. I want you guys to look up Pastor Omar. Now, I don't agree with all of Pastor Omar's teaching, but look at Pastor Omar. He's in a suit. He's well dressed. He's well spoken. He goes to a regular church. He's not out on the corner yelling hatred and cursing at people. He is a regular, ordinary black man who attended church all his life. He'll tell his story. You guys can hear his story for yourself, but he attended church. And then he came to the realization, he's a pastor that came to the realization that we are the Israelites. Now, that didn't change how he viewed salvation. And yet these urban apologists want everybody to believe the lie that there's a doctrine called Hebrew Israelism. That is a lie. There's no such thing as black Hebrew Israelism. We all believe differently. Even the camps don't agree with each other on some doctrine. Myself and Teo, we've gone behind the scenes and done some iron sharpening sessions because we didn't agree on certain doctrine. So there's no such group as the moderates. This is a lie. They're trying to group everybody together. And the reason we are putting out these videos is so that we can expose the fact that they are lying. Because see, if you keep telling the lie that we're all the same, and then people keep watching and they notice that, hey, wait, they don't teach this like the other ones, they see that you're lying. If they notice that, hey, they said that these people are talking about race-based salvation, and then they notice that not all of us teach race-based salvation, they know that you're lying. So I'm loving the fact that the urban apologetics community is running their mouth so much. And I'm also loving the fact that some of them aren't running their mouth at all. And we're going to keep talking about this. So far, you saw my name mentioned once. I just pointed out another lie that Built for Speed 101 keeps pushing. And see, none of the other urban apologists will correct these people because they like the narrative of the lie. So here we go. I told you 3 times like Candyman. We see my name 2 more times. Right here. Robin, have you read what Dante Fortson wrote today about Sister Cherry, vocab, and Christian apologists? Come down here. Robin, Dante Fortson used all type of racial slurs against Sister Cherry and vocab and distorted the true source of Christianity. Okay. Let's go ahead and call their bluff. Everything I posted is on my YouTube channel. You can read the blog post for yourself. You can listen to the videos I did. Please, somebody jump in the comments section and give me a list of all types of racial slurs that I used against Sister Cherry and vocab. Please provide that list of the all types of racial slurs that I used against them. I want this list. And I haven't edited anything. I haven't changed anything. I haven't removed anything. Everything is still up there right now. Please give me this list because I want you guys to go through and hear for yourself that did not happen. These people are lying, and then they are not calling each other out on the lie because they are not who they pretend to be. They pretend to be these Christians that uphold the doctrine and they're all about the Bible, and yet they have a huge double standard. These people can lie and lie and lie, and nobody will call them on the lie, and then they pat themselves on the back like they're doing something. But as you can see, there are more dislikes than likes because people are starting to see the truth. So I just want to shout out a sword and a prayer real quick for being in the chat and pointing this out. Dante Fortson is right on point with his thorough analysis. So wait, let me come down here. I just want to point this out, but this is only part of what I want to touch on. This is just a side note. I don't want to get sidetracked to this. Not so, Robin, because the racial identity doctrine is shared by both the black Hebrew Israelites and the moderates. Their ideology isn't the gospel of Christ Jesus. That is a lie. Go back to Sister E's channel. For those of you who have not been to Sister E's channel, and listen to part 2 with Teo Ministries, Mr. Blacktastic, and I'm sorry that I forget the other brother's name right off the top of my head, but go listen to that interview where they break down the gospel of Jesus Christ, the salvation. These people are lying. You can hear for yourself. Let me go back. There we go. These people are lying. I hit the mouse by accident if you're wondering what just happened. So these people are lying, and they continue to lie because they're expecting people not to go back and check. They're expecting people to not go fact check what they're saying. So go through and listen to Sister E and Teo and Mr. Blacktastic and the other brother break down salvation and their views on salvation in the gospel. You can hear it for yourself. You don't have to believe these people who are trying to speak for who they call the moderates. Now, I don't believe Teo and Sister E and these other people fall into the category of moderates. This is a label that the lying urban apologist community has put on Israelites in order to try to lump them together, because first they wanted to say everybody was the same. And see, then when they got caught in their lie, they had to separate the two and say, wait, they're not the same. So we're going to group this whole other group, regardless of what doctrine they teach. We're going to put them in a group called the moderates, and we're going to tell everybody they teach the same ideology. So why separate it into moderates and the black Hebrew Israelites if they all teach the same ideology? Stop lying to people. Because if they all taught the same ideology, you could just put them in the same group. You wouldn't have to separate them. So stop lying to people. Nobody teaches a race, or I'm not going to say nobody. The majority of us don't teach racial identity doctrine. We teach that it's okay to say you're an Israelite, just like it's okay for a white person to say they're Italian, just like it's okay for a white person to celebrate St. Patrick's Day because they're Irish. It's okay for a white person to trace their history to Europe and say, hey, I'm Swedish. So why isn't it okay for us to trace our history and say we're Israelite without being demonized for it? Because the entire UA movement is rooted in white supremacist doctrine. So now this is the reason this video got made right here. Built for speed. Said my name again a 4th time. So cool. All right, whatever. Sword. Where's the scientific evidence? He's referring to this right here where it said I'm right on point with my thorough analysis. Sword. Where's the scientific evidence on what Dante is speaking about Johnston's book? Now, notice something. I didn't write Johnston's book, yet Built for Speed 101 will not call Johnston a liar because Johnston is a European. And see, Built for Speed wants to attack black people like the UA community is designed to do. So he can't come out and say Johnston is a liar outright, because then he has to say, or she, whoever this is, again, I told you I believe it's faithful to God. I may be wrong, but they would then have to say that the Smithsonian Institute are liars. And what would that lead to? Probably a lawsuit from the Smithsonian Institute. Probably a lawsuit from Johnston's estate. And here is why. We're about to dig into this. Here is why they can't come out and say that Johnston is a liar and that the Smithsonian Institute is putting up false information, because they would open themselves up to lawsuit. So I'm not going to go back over all the information again, but for those who missed the information, go to Addressing the Evidence Part 2. I talk about the Shemites. Go to Addressing the Evidence Part 4. I bring up Harry Johnston. And if you want to get a little more in depth as well, go to the Urban Apologetics Challenge. For those of you who have not seen the Urban Apologetics Challenge, please go watch that video. I challenged all the urban apologists, all of them, to tell the truth. I gave them the documents. I gave them the contact information to the Smithsonian Institute and to Cambridge University Press. I said, if I'm lying and this information is fake, call these people and get these people to say, yes, this information is a lie. This information is a fake. And I will go on my channel and I will update all my subscribers and say, hey, this information has been refuted or debunked or whatever the case may be. I will go on there and do that because I'm about the truth. So the challenge is for them to do the same, that if they cannot refute it or debunk it, that they go on their channel and tell all their subscribers, hey, this is the information right here and it cannot be refuted or debunked by any of the methods we tried so far. Just be honest. That's all you got to do. So Sir Harry Johnston wrote this book called The Negro in the New World. It was published in 1910. The Smithsonian Institute has this copy. Now, this is important because it says the Elamites of Mesopotamia appear to have been a Negroid people with kinky hair and to have transmitted this racial type to the Jews and Syrians. You guys can go get into the other stuff on the video. Now, this is important because the Bible tells us that Elam was the son of Shem and that the Jews and Syrians come from the Shemite line. So if Harry Johnston is saying these people are Negroes, that is a nail in a coffin to the entire UA movement. The entire UA movement is built around calling us liars and fakes and all this other nonsense and saying that our evidence isn't real. And yet the Smithsonian Institute has this in their possession. That right there speaks volumes. The Smithsonian Institute has this. But see, it didn't stop there. See, I wanted to not leave any wiggle room for these people, because these people keep lying and lying and lying and lying. And so eventually when you keep telling a lie, it's going to catch up to you. Everything done in the dark will eventually come to the light. And today is that day where all your lies about the evidence catches up to you. See, these people, they love the white accolades, right? They'll talk about seminary because that's a white accolade. They will talk about peer-reviewed articles because that's a white accolade. They will talk about different degrees and notoriety and all these white accolades. So today I'm about to give them all the white accolades, all of them. I gave them the Cambridge University Press. They ignored it because they have 81 Nobel Prizes and 250 peer-reviewed papers. After they make a big deal about peer review and accolades, they don't want to address the evidence from Cambridge University Press to say that black slaves brought Judaism over here in slavery because it seems to be the traditional religion of West Africa. Go through and watch those videos again, the Urban Apologetics Challenge. They don't want to respond to it for good reason. So let's talk about it. They wanted scientific proof of Harry Johnston's book. One more time, I want to show you. Where is the scientific evidence on what Dante is speaking about Johnston's book? Here it goes. Pay attention, Built for Speed. This is how you destroy a movement. Archaeology, or archaeology, is the study of human activity through the recovery and analysis of material culture. The archaeological record consists of artifacts, biofacts, and ecofacts. Architecture, biofacts, and ecofacts, and cultural landscapes. Archaeology can be considered both a social science and a branch of the humanities. A social science and a branch of humanities. Archaeology is accepted by everybody. When something is discovered and you see a coin with Goliath's name on it, and Christians are quick to say, hey, they discovered a coin with Goliath's name on it. That's proof that Goliath existed. Or they discovered Sodom and Gomorrah. That's proof that Sodom and Gomorrah existed. They discovered Jericho, the walls of Jericho. That's proof, right? So if we're going to keep a common standard across the board, then archaeology is accepted as scientific proof. So let's talk about Harry Johnston, since you guys like European accolades so much, since you guys wanted to go there and say, where's the proof and all this other stuff. My first stop was Wikipedia, as usual. I told you guys that. I make no apologies for that. So Sir Harry Hamilton Johnston, frequently known as Harry Johnston, was a British explorer, a botanist, that's a scientist, artist, colonial administrator, that's kind of like a governor, you guys can look that up yourself, and linguist who traveled widely in Africa and spoke many African languages. He published 40 books on African subjects and was one of the key players in the scramble for Africa that occurred at the end of the 19th century. The end of the 19th century, the scramble for Africa. Why were they scrambling for Africa? Go back and look at the evidence that I pointed you to throughout this series of addressing the evidence. They were starting to figure out that the Israelites were black and they wanted to snatch them up, but we're gonna touch on all that. So he's written 40 books. He's an explorer. He's a botanist. He was a governor, or the equivalent of a governor, a colonial administrator. He was from Great Britain. He lived from 1858 to 1927. Published 40 books on African subjects, and says he spoke many African languages. So I didn't know what the scramble for Africa was. I'd never heard that terminology before. So I went and looked up that terminology when researching this, right? So the scramble for Africa, this is interesting. If you look over here, there's a map that shows how they broke up Africa between all of the European countries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here. 7 European countries split up Africa as follows. But listen to what this says. And it says he was one of the key players. The scramble for Africa, also called the partition of Africa or the conquest of Africa, was the invasion, occupation, division, and colonization of African territory by European powers during the period known to historians as the New Imperialism. So he was part of taking over Africa. He played a huge role in taking over Africa because he was an explorer, a botanist, an artist, and a colonial administrator and linguist who traveled widely in Africa and spoke many African languages. But we're not done. Right here. This is Encyclopedia Britannica. So if he's not a reputable source, make sure you call the Encyclopedia Britannica and get them to remove this. Sir Harry Hamilton Johnston, born June 12, 1858, London, England, died August 31st, 1927, Woodses House near Worksop. Anyway, British explorer, botanist, zoologist, that's another type of scientist, artist, and pioneer colonial administrator. Widely traveled Africa and speaking many African languages, he was closely involved in what was called the scramble for Africa. You recognize this from Wikipedia, right? Same description. So Wikipedia likely used the Encyclopedia Britannica, but when you get down here, he gained his early, can't scroll down. He gained his early African experience as a painter, natural history collector, and freelance journalist. He was in Tunis and then traveled to Angola and up the Congo River. On a botanical expedition to Mount Kilimanjaro in Eastern Africa, he obtained a land concession that helped draw the frontiers between British and German territories in that region. Joining the consular service in 1885, he spent 3 years administering a British protectorate in eastern Nigeria. Between 1888 and 1891, he exercised much influence on British African policy and obtained the treaties on which the United Kingdom based its claim to Nyasaland and Northern Rhodesia. And all these words. Johnston was knighted in 1896. He served 2 years as consul general in Tunis and was special commissioner in Uganda. This dude spent more of his life in Africa than many black people. He understood what Negroes look like. So when he writes that the Elamites had Negro features, trust and believe he knew that Elamites had Negro features. His whole life was spent around black people on the continent of Africa speaking African languages. But let's not stop there. The National Portrait Gallery. This is another English. Place, or a place in England. You guys know what I mean. So I want to point this out because we're gonna come back to this in a second. It says, with a figure apparently frail and almost boyish in its slightness, and a fair, gentle, sweet, and almost shy expression, he looks the very opposite of a dauntless and inflexible explorer, according to one contemporary. A diplomatic colleague wrote. Listen to this. A diplomatic colleague wrote that Johnston had added 400,000 square miles to the British Empire through his extraordinarily active and versatile intelligence, untiring industry, and great personal energy and courage. Later assessments are less admiring, calling him a social Darwinist and judging his contributions to natural science more notable than those to colonial politics. His brother and private secretary Alex described him as a many-sided man of strong will and convictions, whose wit and vehemence often alienated others. That was written by Dr. Jan Marsh. Since you guys like European accolades, that is a doctor, meaning she went to school, whether it's operational doctor or doctor in, I don't know, archaeology, whatever. She's a doctor. She went to school. I assume Jan is a lady. So we see here that this guy has accolades. This guy is well known. He's not just some random dude that wrote in a journal and said Elamites have Negro features. This dude was important. So I decided to look up the RGS London because I didn't know what this was. So let me read this right here because most of this is from Wikipedia, what I just read. He was knighted in 1896, served in Uganda, sought unsuccessfully to enter parliament, traveled to East Africa and the Caribbean, published books on imperial policy in Africa and some Dickensian novels, exhibited at the RA, died 31st July 1927 near Worksop. His collection of maps, papers, reports, photographs, and drawings is held by the RGS London. So now pay attention, because they say, where's the scientific evidence of these claims, right? So now what you want to do is you want to contact the National Portrait Gallery first. So you want to contact first the Smithsonian Institute and let them know that this information is false if you have evidence for it, urban apologists. And then after you contact the Smithsonian Institute, you're going to want to contact the National Portrait Gallery and let them know that their information is false. He doesn't have all these accolades and he's not reliable. You're going to want to contact the Encyclopedia Britannica to update their information as well. And then after all that, you're going to want to talk to RGS London. For those that don't know what RGS London is, which I didn't, I decided to go look it up. The Royal Geographical Society. Geography is a science. With the Institute of British Geographers is the UK's learned society and professional body for geography. We advance geography and support geographers in the UK across the world. Now, you guys, there's a link to this on my website. I'm going to have the link in the description page, how to get directly to my website, so you can have all the links to all the references as usual, because unlike the urban apologetics community, I'm honest about my research and I'm willing to share all my links so you guys can go read it all for yourself. You don't have to take my word for anything. They won't do it because they don't have any actual evidence to prove that anything is fake. They just say it and want you to take their word for it, but not today. I'm going to show you that they're lying. So, medals and awards. This is from the Royal Geographical Society. This is their medals and awards, and here's what they're for. And remember, all Harry Johnston stuff is housed there. The Smithsonian Institute has that copy of the book, but the rest of his stuff, like it says, maps, papers, reports, photographs, and drawings held by RGS London. It says, our prestigious medals and awards recognize excellence in geographical research, fieldwork, teaching, and public engagement. They are presented annually in recognition of those who have made outstanding contributions. Any fellow or member of the society may take a nomination. Her Majesty the Queen approves the award of 2 medals every year, 2 gold medals every year. They originated in 1831 as an annual gift of 50 guineas from King William IV. In 1839, the society decided that this sum should be converted into 2 gold medals of equal value to be designated the Founder's Medal and the Patron's Medal. Today, the society's gold medals are among the highest international accolades and are awarded for the encouragement and promotion of geography, science, and discovery. So this is one of the highest accolades you can get in the world. And they have Johnston's books. One of the highest scientific accolades you can get, they have Johnston's books. One of the highest discovery, geography accolades you can get, and they have Johnston's books. And they say Johnston is legit. The Smithsonian Institute says Johnston is legit. And Johnston says the Elamites had Negroid features, whether you like it or not. He says they passed them down to the Assyrians, whether you like it or not. He says they passed those Negroid features down to the Jews, whether y'all like it or not. So if y'all can't prove it's fake, stop lying to people and tell them it's fake. Period. There's no excuse at this point. If you keep lying about it, it's because you're choosing to lie about it. Not because you don't have the information. It's because you just have decided that the information does not fit your narrative, so you're going to lie instead of swallowing your pride and admitting the truth. But let's keep going. You can contact the Royal Geographical Society at this contact number right here on the right. And this is their address. So if you guys are telling the truth and all this stuff is fake, you shouldn't mind contacting all of these organizations that I'm giving you and having them update their information about Sir Harry Johnston. But we know you're not going to do it because you can't. You can't, because you put yourself in a position where you're pushing a false narrative. And right now, if you admit that narrative has been false this whole time, it will destroy your ministry, and you know it. You will have no choice but to accept that Elamites were black Negroes. You will have no choice but to accept that the Assyrians were black, specifically Negroes, Jews, Negroes. All the evidence points to it, but let's keep going. So let's talk about the 10,000 Immortals. Now, this is important because they say, where's the scientific evidence? The 10,000 Immortals are scientific evidence. Again, this comes from the editors of the Encyclopedia Britannica, and there's a link in the description. 10,000 Immortals in Persian history, core troops in the Achaemenian army, so named because their number of 10,000 was immediately reestablished after every loss. Under the direct leadership of the Hazarapat, or commander-in-chief, the Immortals, who formed the king's personal bodyguard, consisted primarily of Persians, but also included Medes and Elamites. They apparently had special privileges, such as being allowed to take concubines and servants along with them on the march. One colored glazed bricks and carved reliefs found at Achaemenian capitals, such as the palace at Darius or Darius I at Susa. Pause real quick. Susa is in the Bible as Shushan, and it talks about the Shushan palace belonging to the Elamites. This is homework for everybody out there who wants truth. Go get in your Bible and look up all the references to Elam and Shushan palace. It's not Susa in the Bible, it's Shushan. It says, such as the palace at Darius I at Susa. Warriors believed to be immortals are often represented standing stiffly at attention, each soldier's wooden spear with its silver blade and pomegranate insignia held upright and resting firmly on his toe. They wore elaborate robes and much gold jewelry. An elite 1,000 of the mortals were further distinguished by having gold pomegranates on their spears. So here we see that the Immortals consisted of mostly Persians, but included Medes and Elamites. So why is this important? Many of you have seen the movie 300, and these are the Immortals. So if it sounded familiar to you and you saw the movie 300, this is why. Because the Immortals were in the movie 300, and it talked about their history. But what many people didn't know, that they were made of Persians and Medes and Elamites. And the reason they used masks, because they didn't want you to understand this part of history. This is an important part of history. They wanted to cover the faces so that they didn't have to cast a bunch of black people to play the immortal warriors from history. This is what was carved. It said the color carvings. This is from the Encyclopedia Britannica. This is the picture. These are the Elamites / Persians / Medes, all black people. But what did Johnston say? They have Negroid features, thick lips, kinky hair. We see that they have black skin. Down here, a phrase of archers from the palace of Darius I at Susa, circa 510 BCE. Some believe the warriors are among the 10,000 Immortals. Now, again, some more homework. Go to your Bible and see what the Bible says about the Elamites. It says they were the archers. It tells you the Elamites were the archers in the Bible. And what do we see right here? We see the bow. We see a bow. We see quivers. We see a bow. We see quivers. The Elamites were the archers. This is why Sir Harry Johnston says the Elamites have Negroid features. Now understand this all as well. From what I've read in his book, he seemed to be very, 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 very racist. And we're going to come back to that. And I think that actually gives him more credibility in that he says they look like Negroes, because he viewed Negroes as below the white man. And you can kind of get that in his journals when he specifically refers to white men from the United States in comparison to Negroes' brain capacity. So this racist, who has no dog in the fight, because we're going to come back to that. But anyway, this racist dude says that these guys are Negroes. And these guys are the sons or descendants of Shem. And these guys passed on their features to Jews and Assyrians. So in case you need a closer look, you see the kinky hair, you see the black skin, you see the Negroid features. This is archaeology. And the reason I said we accept archaeology across the board, in Christendom, they accept archaeology as proof of everything else. And so here we have archaeology of the Elamites, what they look like. The Bible says that they are the archers. Harry Johnston said they have Negroid features. The archaeology proves both. And yet the urban apologetics community is allowing these people to get on their channel and tell you this information is fake. These people are liars. And we can prove they're liars because they ask where the scientific evidence is. I'm giving it to them. And now what's going to happen is they're either going to ignore it. And we know why they're going to ignore it, because they can't afford to admit that they were wrong, because the pride won't let them do it. Or two, they're going to change the goalposts and say, well, archaeology isn't acceptable. We need a different science. We're going to need DNA. Okay, well, when you ask those Europeans for their DNA to prove that they're Israelites, let me know. And in order for it to be fair, it can't be handled by one of them to prove that they're Israelites, because that's an agenda. That's not an unbiased opinion. So what we're going to find is they're going to keep moving the goalpost. Because now we have archaeological evidence that supports a book or journal that the Smithsonian co-signs as legit, that the Royal Geographical Society of England, who gives out one of the most prestigious international awards in science, they say this dude's stuff is legit because they got all his paperwork and stuff and his contributions. But they don't want to admit that. Again, the Elamites of Mesopotamia appear to have been a Negroid people with kinky hair and to have transmitted this racial type to the Jews and Syrians. The Elamites, Negroid people, kinky hair. Period. There's no way around the evidence. Address it or admit that you're lying. Prove that it's fake or admit that you've been lying to people by telling them it's fake. It's only one or the other. It's either real or it's fake. And so far, I'm proving to you that it's absolutely legit. Unless you have evidence to the contrary, stop lying to people. So now let's address Brother Brian. Now, see, I hadn't mentioned Brother Brian's name. I hadn't said nothing to Brother Brian. Brother Brian came on my page, and unfortunately, I deleted his comment before I decided to even make this video. And I kind of wish I hadn't. Now, Brother Brian makes this false accusation saying that I'm afraid to tell people the truth about Harry Johnston believing in Darwinism. Now, he said Darwinism, but it's more correctly social Darwinism. But I wanted to call his bluff because he says I'm not being truthful because I won't tell you guys that. But this has to do everything with what I just said about Harry Johnston being a racist based on what I read in his book. So social Darwinism, I decided to Google it. Here's what the Oxford Dictionary says. The theory that individuals, groups, and people are subject to the same Darwinian laws of natural selection as plants and animals. Now largely discredited, social Darwinism was advocated by Herbert Spencer and others in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. When did Harry live? The late 19th century. And was used to justify political conservatism, imperialism, and racism, and to discourage intervention and reform. This is true. He was a social Darwinist. He was a racist based on what I read. And yet he still said the Jews are Negroes. You would think that if he had a dog in this fight and he wanted to pass a lie, he would say, hey, these Jews in Africa, I spent all this time in Africa, and these Elamites are white people. That would have been the lie. He spent all that time in Africa, and he said these Elamites, they look like Negroes. These Jews, they look like Negroes. These Assyrians, they look like Negroes. And then what does the archaeology prove? The archaeology proves that these people look like Negroes. The Elamites look like Negroes. So everything he said is consistent. This hair is consistent. So, Brother Brian, since you have claimed that I'm afraid to tell people that he was a social Darwinist, and I'm calling your bluff right now, I'm going to respond to that and point out that not only will you not acknowledge that I called your bluff, but you won't go back and present this information on Sir Harry Johnston and the Elamites, because what you want to do is create a straw man argument. It's irrelevant whether or not he was a social Darwinist. That is 100% irrelevant to anything. It doesn't matter if he believed blue aliens performed the Star Wars theme song with Elvis on the White House lawn in front of the Terminator. That's irrelevant. It doesn't change the fact that there's an archaeological discovery that backs what he says, that the Elamites appear to have been Negroid people with kinky hair. It's still a fact. So trying to come up with a straw man argument and saying, well, he's a social Darwinist, so therefore we're going to throw out all information. Come on now. That's not how that works. You guys do that to escape having to deal with reality. You will find one tiny thing and say, well, he believes this, so we can't believe anything he says ever. And we know that's not true, because the scientific research is still fact. Now, if the same dude that said Jesus Christ is Lord and he had been a social Darwinist, would you say that we can't trust that Jesus Christ is Lord? Of course not. You won't say that. But because the evidence points to Israel being black, of course you say that, well, he's a social Darwinist, and you won't tell people because you're trying to hide it. I'm not trying to hide it. I gave people the links, unlike you guys. I said, here, read this for yourself, unlike you guys. I didn't just say, hey, this is real. I'm providing evidence to back my assertions and conclusions. You guys are not providing anything. You're just saying it's fake, and you're out there lying to people. So let's talk about Cherry Love. Now, these people are over there congratulating themselves and patting themselves on the back. And I purposely left a comment from Built for Speed 101. You guys can go read it. It's on the blog post I made on YouTube. He basically is saying that they are basically making progress in refuting everything and turning people against us and all this other stuff. I'm just paraphrasing because these people are so like a non-factor in most of everything that gets done as far as Israelite progress and the awakening. These people are like a speed bump. They're nothing. But I just wanted to point out that all these people on Sister Cherry Love's channel, you got Faithful going to her channel, Brother Brian, her, you had Vocab in the chat the other day, being a moderator or whatever he called himself doing. And so these clowns, they get together and they have this meeting in their circus or whatever. They pat each other on the back and say, hey, we're doing a good job. We're making progress. We're putting out 7.5-hour videos because we have no life. And they put out these videos. And I just wanted to point out that at the time when this started, when I first mentioned Sister Cherry Love and I first started addressing the urban, or not addressing the evidence, the Urban Apologetics Exposed series, I just want you to notice she had about half as many dislikes as likes, and she had 677 subscribers. Now, after this, she had made a video at some point saying she praises God for the slow growth. She has slow growth because they're trash. UA is trash, period. UA is trash, and the black UA, the urban apologists, the black urban apologists, they're second-class citizens anyway. Vocab's getting all the attention, and we all know this. We all know the urban apologists ain't never going to be nothing but the help. They don't recognize it yet, but we all see it. That's why Vocab can get on these big shows, and y'all are sitting there with 677 subscribers. But let's continue. Now, Sister Cherry believes that they're making progress. Faithful to God on that first show. I got the links for you guys to go look at Urban Apologetics Exposed, part 1. Faithful to God was bragging about how many more subscribers he has than me, and he's been doing it less time, and all this other nonsense. Sister Cherry said, I'm clout chasing, and I just want attention, even though I have way more subscribers than her. So I want to point something out. So Cherry Love, she now has 703 subscribers. So if we do math real quick, she had 677. That means 23 would be 700, and you add 3 more. That means she has 26 more subscribers now from when the time began when we started this. This was early December when I first mentioned her on my channel. So she's gotten 26 subscribers. 26. And she praises God for the slow growth. So just so you guys know who she is, because, you know, these people hide behind their stage names because they're actors. Like Christ said, go look up the Greek word for actor. It's actually hypocrite. So Marshall Forbes from Chicago, Illinois. If you guys want to send her a Facebook request, shout out to the person who sent me this. But if you guys want to send her a Facebook request, here's who she is. So she's bragging about how many subscribers, you know, God's slow growth. Faithful to God is bragging about his 4.46 thousand followers. He had these close to the same amount when we started this. But I want to show you guys something just to show you that they're having no impact, that they're like fleas. This is the month of December, and these are my analytics. 823 new subscribers. I've had more subscribers in the month of December than she has on her whole channel, period. This is because you cannot slow down the awakening, because the awakening is a move of the Most High. So when these people are sitting up here lying, there's a reason that they're only getting 26 subscribers. There's a reason that Faithful for God is not getting a bunch of subscribers. As you can see, mine is 4455 currently when I took this screenshot right before I started this. 899 new subscribers in the last 28 days, because you can't stop the awakening of the Most High God. And I warned you guys of that. I'm 5 subscribers away from being 4.46, right there with Faithful to God when he started off bragging about how many more he had than me. I will probably end this month with over 1,000 new subscribers, and it will continue from there. You guys are not reaching whoever you think you're reaching. Just go look at Faithful to God's videos. Go see how many views they have. He has 4,000 subscribers, almost 4,500 subscribers, and his videos are only getting 100 or 200 hits, 300 hits. There's a couple of them that got over 1,000, but most times they're only getting a couple hundred hits. Why is that? Because your message is not resonating with people. Now go look at mine. Go look at mine and see how many people are watching my videos. That's because when you're speaking a message of truth, your message is consistent, and you guys don't have a consistent message. You guys aren't balanced. You guys will fault all Israelites for the action of a couple, but you won't fault all Christianity for the actions of a couple white men. In fact, you outright ignore, you blatantly ignore all terroristic acts by white men so that you can attack black people. So I want every black person listening, ask yourself, why would these people do nothing but attack black people all day, every day? How do they have 10 hours at a time to attack black people all day, every day? 7.5 hours. Go look at Cherry Love's videos, and you can see some of them videos are ridiculous. 10 hours, 12 hours, 7 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, just live, just talking trash about black people. But this is the heart of the UA community. Cherry Love represents the worst part of the UA community. She is their weakest link. Go watch her latest video where she talks about doing violence to Sister E over the Jersey City shooting. Sister E didn't have anything to do with the Jersey City shooting, and yet Cherry Love is on there lying, acting like, oh, well, the moderates support this. No, we don't. They're on there looking at a video of one guy with a shotgun saying that this is how the moderates are acting. This is how the camps are acting. No, you're looking at a video of one person. And she's trying to say that this is how they all act, or this is how we all act. And yet the sources you shared said that the majority of Israelites are not racist or violent. And yet these people are lying. So anyway, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to keep my foot on their neck. They're in a corner now. They have to respond. They wanted the scientific evidence. Now they got it all. They got the scientific evidence. And if they come back and try to move the goalposts, you guys will know why. If they try to dodge responding to this, you guys know why. If they try to say, well, this is just fake and they won't provide evidence, you know why. If we don't see a video of them coming out, contacting all these organizations, getting corroborative evidence saying that, hey, this information is fake, you know why. Because if they had the evidence to prove this was fake, they would be eager to jump on there. They would be eager to expose my channel and say, hey, we proven Dante Fortson is fake and he's got all this fake information and we got the evidence to prove it. We all know that they would be all over that. And yet they aren't, because they can't. And the reason they can't is because they are liars. So if you guys want to support what it is I do, I'm going to continue dropping these videos. Patreon.com/Dante Fortson. If you guys want to support through Cash App, hashtag BHITB. There are other options such as PayPal. You can always buy a book. That is greatly appreciated. And if you don't have it financially to support, just share this information. Help expose the urban apologetics community for the liars and dishonest people they are. So with that said, until next time, I'm out.